Today we're at Remington Park in Oklahoma City. Today we're at Remington Park in Oklahoma City. Today we're at Remington Park in Oklahoma City talking to multiple vets. I am going to be by far the least educated person in the room. However, we're going to talk to different people about colic. We're going to talk about ulcers. We're going to talk about senior horses keeping weight on. It's going to be a fun-filled day. You know, going into the winter time, older horses especially seem like they have trouble keeping weight on. We get people come into the store all the time that are like, you know, I don't know what the deal is. My horse is losing weight, you know, and we have to explain. What do you think that one of the bigger things is with senior horses losing weight into the winter?
Now, that's a good question, and it's something we see every winter. Seasonal change is tough for all horses because you change the forage pretty significantly. A lot of us have green pasture through the spring and summer, and we transition to hay through the fall and winter. And most horses tend to do okay with that. The senior horses have a little bit harder trouble because as a senior horse, you know, part of being a senior horse is your teeth are not as effective as they once were, and your digestion's not as effective as it once was. So two things happen with senior horses. They don't extract the same level of nutrition out of dry hay as they did out of green pasture. And they don't extract as much nutrition out of hay as younger horses are able to do. So they don't chew well and they don't digest as well. And so they may actually be eating the hay, so you think they're okay, right, but they're losing weight. And so that's one of the reasons way back 20-something years ago we developed Equine Senior. It was the first feed to realize that senior horses' needs were changing because their physiology was changing. And so Equine Senior has really good quality fiber and forage built into it, so you feed it to replace the hay and the grain, right, and it helps better support those older horses. And there's other health issues, and Kathy, you may want to talk to a little bit about the health issues and the challenge through the winter for some of these senior horses.
Yeah, there are some specific things that really do challenge the senior horses' health in the winter time. First of all, they're mobilizing fat stores, and when they do that, it can actually increase the systemic inflammation in those older horses. So we have actually developed a prebiotic component and put it in Equine Senior. It's called Activage, and it helps to modulate or control that inflammatory response that's commonly seen in senior horses. Some of the other issues, they do seem to be more susceptible to respiratory infections, and we know that in colder weather, just breathing colder air can damage the airways to a certain degree, leaving those horses more susceptible to respiratory infections. And then lastly, many senior horses have joint issues, arthritis, old injuries, things like that. And certainly the cold weather seems to exacerbate that, as well as the poor
older
poor
people
footing.
Are cranky in the
Exactly. Their joints are aching and things like that. I know I'm starting to feel that way. But so winter certainly has some specific challenges to the senior horse, and just by having a little bit of forethought going into the season, right, you can really help to head off a lot of those.
What is it? Ounce of prevention.
Pound of cure.
Stupid. I shouldn't have done it, Ricky. I should have just let her go. But yeah, I think that's a common deal. You know, people, and what's crazy is, you know, you just mentioned the longer hair in the wintertime and putting blankets on, and so many times in the spring, you get people that are like, yeah, I think I need to wear my horse. He's real skinny, or, you know, and I think what that is people not getting ahead of, you know, the winter time.
Every spring we get phone calls from horse owners who say, oh my gosh, my old horse all of a sudden lost, right, 200 pounds. And no, he all of a sudden probably didn't lose 200 pounds. You just didn't look through that winter hair, or he was under a blanket and you just didn't notice, right, that through the winter he gradually lost weight.
You're a terrible horse owner.
No, you're not a terrible horse owner. They just become a little bit harder to keep. And the things that, you know, that's everybody always says, how do you tell when my horse is a senior horse? And they're like us, and they all age at a different, right, rate depending on how well you took care of yourself at another time. But when they begin to not manage as well as they used to on the same diet that works for a younger horse, then you really need to look at. And we actually have 2 seniors in the equine senior line. One is the original equine senior that does replace hay. And what is a problem for some horse owners is because it comes in a feed bag, they still look at it as feed, and they want to feed it like a scoop of it. And you have to understand that you need to feed enough volume to replace some or all of the hay.
If you're replacing hay, you need to feed
You've
enough
got
to replace the hay.
So for a 1,000-pound horse at maintenance, it's 13 pounds a day to
Right.
replace their total diet. And then we have the senior active, which is designed to be fed with hay, but it also has the prebiotic immune support that Kathy talked about for older horses who can still chew hay and digest hay pretty well, but they still have those senior horse
Older
age.
age.
I can say is I fed Purina Equine Senior before I went to work for Purina, and it was just because I had an old mare, and we now know that she was developing Cushing's. We didn't know at the time that that's what it was. But as these older horses begin to decline, the nutrition level has got to improve and the availability of that nutrition. And so for a horse owner, when you have that older horse, they're either one part of the family, they've been around for a long time, or oftentimes these days they're still part of your competition string. And so we, for instance, the National Finals Rodeo coming up, there'll be horses that are in their 20s that are still competing. I think the awesome thing is that Purina set the standard. We did the research in old horses, and we saw that we could change the nutrition and we could add life to their years through feeding them better. And we've continued to investigate that. We worked with University of Kentucky Gluck Equine Research Facility to develop
I've heard
this.
there's a lot of horses out there.
There are. But they happen to have
One or two.
they happen to have a set of old horses, and the important thing is that we did the research on old horses. Because a young horse can't tell us what an old horse needs. And so
Right.
to find a population of old horses, we were able to find something that we could add to the formula of Equine Senior and even make it better.